Chelsea are coming for a defender and a striker this summer. And here is everything you need to know. Let me ask you something before we even get started. What does Chelsea actually need right now to become a proper title contender? Is it more young talent? Is it a proven coach with a clear system? Or is it something simpler than all of that? Is it just two good players who know what they are doing and can walk straight into the starting 11 without needing 6 months to settle in? Because if you have been following the transfer news lately, it looks like the people running Chelsea have been asking themselves that exact same question. And the two names that keep coming up are Senesi from AFC Bournemouth and Darwin Nunez from Al Hilal. One is a centre-back who could be available for absolutely nothing this summer. The other is a centre-forward who used to be one of the most talked-about strikers in Europe and wants to come back. This is going to be a long one. Get comfortable. Because there is a lot to talk about here. Let us start with the defender. Nobody is talking enough about Senesi. Is 28 years old. He plays centre-back. He is Argentine. And right now, he is at AFC Bournemouth, which is a club that has done really well to stay in the Premier League, but is not exactly the kind of club where a player of his quality should be spending his best years. Here is the big news. Chelsea are understood to be in talks about a potential free transfer for Senesi. That word free is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Let that sit for a second. In today's football, getting a 28-year-old Premier League centre-back for absolutely nothing is not something that happens very often. These deals almost always come with a fee attached. But Senesi looks like he is going to be out of contract at Bournemouth this summer, and Chelsea have already been in contact with his representatives about a possible move. Now, some of you might be reading this and thinking, okay, but is Senesi actually good enough for Chelsea? That is a fair question, and it deserves a proper answer. Senesi has been playing regularly in the Premier League for a couple of seasons now. He is not a player who just stands there and kicks the ball away. He is comfortable on the ball, he reads the game well, he has experience in European football, and he has played in big matches before. He came through at Feyenoord in the Netherlands, which is a club that takes defending seriously and develops technically good players. He is also 28, which in football terms means he is in what a lot of people call the peak years. He is not too young to be uncertain, and he is not too old to be declining. He is right in that window where a player knows exactly who they are and what they bring to a team. But here is where it gets interesting and also a little complicated. The reports say that Senesi could have very high wage demands, and you can understand why. This is probably going to be the last time in his career where he can sign a really big contract. When a player gets to 28 and they know they are good enough to attract top clubs, they want to make sure the money reflects that. That is not greed. That is just reality. So the question Chelsea have to ask themselves is this: are they willing to give Senesi the kind of wages he is going to ask for? And is the fact that there is no transfer fee going to make it easier to justify those wages? My feeling is yes. If Chelsea do not have to pay 30 or 40 million pounds to buy him, they have more room to be flexible on his wages. The total cost of the deal might actually be very similar to what it would cost to buy a cheaper defender, plus pay reasonable wages. The free transfer aspect is a massive advantage here. Playing time is also mentioned as something Senesi cares about. He does not want to go somewhere and sit on the bench. He wants to play. And again, that is completely reasonable for a player his age who wants to perform at the highest level in his remaining peak years. So the ball is in Chelsea's court. If they can offer him regular football and match his wage expectations, this looks like a very smart piece of business. If they mess around or try to lowball him, he will find another club that treats him better. Simple as that. Now, let us talk about Darwin Nunez. If the Senesi story is the quiet and sensible transfer news, the Darwin Nunez story is the one that gets the blood pumping a little faster. Nunez is 26 years old. He plays as a centre forward, and most Chelsea fans will remember him very well from his time at Liverpool. He was the player who came from Benfica in the summer of 2022 for a huge fee, caused absolute chaos in the Premier League with his pace and his running, and divided opinion almost immediately. Some people loved him because of his energy and his ability to create problems with his movement. Some people were frustrated because he did not always take his chances. He scored some brilliant goals, but he also missed some that he really should have scored. Liverpool fans had very mixed feelings about him, and eventually he ended up at Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia. Now he wants to come back to Europe, and Chelsea are one of the clubs that are looking at him. According to reports, Nunez is prepared to accept a significant wage reduction to make a return to European football happen, and his representatives have made it clear that personal terms will not be the problem. If the right project comes along and the club is willing to take him, the deal can get done on the financial side without too much drama. Chelsea have done background work on him. They have been contacted by his representatives. He is among the names they are considering as they look for a striker. So why would Chelsea be interested in Darwin Nunez specifically? Let us think about this carefully. Chelsea have been a club that in recent years has spent a huge amount of money on young forwards. They have brought in players with a lot of potential and a lot of ability. But if we are being honest, the number 9 position has not always been sorted out the way a top club needs it to be. Goals from central positions have not always been as consistent as the squad quality would suggest they should be. Nunez is 26. He is experienced. He has played in the Champions League. He has scored in big games. He has Premier League experience already, which means he knows what the intensity is like. He knows how fast the game moves, and he does not need 3 months just to get used to the speed of English football. And here is something important that does not always get mentioned. Nunez coming from Saudi Arabia back to Europe is actually a very different proposition than Nunez coming from Benfica to Liverpool. He was still quite raw when he went to Liverpool. He had not yet played in a top 5 European league for a long period of time. Now he is 2 years older, he has more experience, and he comes back with something to prove. Players who leave European football and then come back with a point to prove can sometimes be incredibly motivated. They want to show that they still belong at the top level. That hunger can be a very powerful thing for a team to have in their squad. But let us also be fair and ask the harder questions here. Is there a reason Nunez ended up in Saudi Arabia at 24? Was it purely about money, or were there concerns from top clubs that he was not consistent enough to be a first-choice striker? Those are honest questions that Chelsea's recruitment team will be sitting down and trying to answer right now. And what happened at Liverpool? He was not exactly pushed out the door in the most glorious circumstances. The goals were there sometimes, but the overall performance level was not always convincing enough for what was expected of him, given the transfer fee that was paid. Chelsea would not be paying that kind of fee for him. If he comes back from Saudi Arabia willing to take a pay cut and is available at a reasonable cost, the risk profile of the deal is completely different. A cheaper Nunez, who is hungry and experienced, is a very different conversation to an expensive Nunez who carries huge expectations. So what do you think? Would you take Nunez at Chelsea if the price and wages were right? Think about it before you answer too quickly. What does Chelsea actually need more right now? This is where things get really interesting from a tactical and squad planning point of view. Let us be honest. Chelsea need both things. They need a reliable centre-back and they need a proper striker who can get double figures in the league consistently. Those are two big needs, and the club seems to be trying to address both of them this summer. But if you had to pick one, which one matters more for next season? The argument for prioritizing the defense is that everything starts from the back. A solid defensive foundation allows the rest of the team to play with confidence. When a team is conceding goals because the backline is uncertain or not experienced enough, it creates pressure all over the pitch. Senesi coming in for free and being a steady, experienced presence at centre-back would address something very fundamental about how Chelsea are built. The argument for prioritizing the striker is that at the end of the day, you need goals to win football matches. You can have the best defense in the league, but if you cannot score regularly, you are not going to challenge at the top. A proper number 9 who knows how to finish and who is always in the right position makes every other forward player better. It creates space, it draws defenders, and it gives the team a clear focal point. My personal take is that the Senesi deal makes more immediate sense because it would cost Chelsea almost nothing in terms of a transfer fee. The wages might be the only real cost, and if they can make that work within their budget, it is quite simply a no-brainer. You are getting an experienced Premier League defender in the prime years of his career for the cost of his wages. That does not come along very often. The Nunez situation is more complicated. There are more questions to answer, more risk involved, and more debate about whether he is the right fit. But if the price is right and he comes in with the right attitude, it could be the kind of signing that surprises everyone. A word about how Chelsea do their business. These days, one thing worth pointing out is that Chelsea under their current ownership have shown that they are not afraid to take on players that other clubs have moved on from. They have also shown a willingness to do creative deals and to sign players who are available at lower costs if they believe in the quality. The Senesi free transfer approach fits exactly into that kind of thinking. Why pay 40 million for a centre-back when you can get a good one for nothing? It sounds simple, but a lot of clubs do not have the discipline to wait for those opportunities. The Nunez approach also fits into that pattern. He is not the finished article in the most conventional sense. There is risk involved. But the potential reward is a striker who is 26, physical, fast, experienced in Europe and England, and desperate to prove himself again. That combination of factors can be very appealing to a club that is building something rather than just buying established stars at their peak. Chelsea are not in a position right now where they can compete with the very biggest clubs in terms of wages for the absolute top names in world football. So smart recruitment becomes very important. You find the players who have genuine quality but are available for various reasons, whether that is age, form, contract situation or something else, and you put together a squad that is better than the sum of its parts. Both Senesi and Nunez, in their own very different ways, fit that model. What the fans should be feeling right now. If you are a Chelsea supporter reading this, what is your honest reaction to these two potential signings? I think the realistic and sensible Chelsea fan should be cautiously excited. Neither of these deals is done. Neither of them is even close to being confirmed. They are at the stage where conversations are happening and names are being considered. A lot of transfer stories that start like this never go anywhere. The player goes somewhere else, the club changes its priorities, the wages do not add up, or something else happens that makes the deal fall apart. But the fact that both of these names have come up at the same time tells you something about what Chelsea are thinking about for next summer. They want a centre-back who brings experience and leadership to the defence. They want a striker who can score goals and who brings something different to what they already have. That is a sensible and logical transfer strategy. And if both deals actually happen, a free transfer centre-back with Premier League experience and a proven striker returning from Saudi Arabia hungry to prove himself, that would actually be a really solid summer of business, especially if the costs are kept reasonable. The challenge, as always, is turning conversations into actual signings. Chelsea have had plenty of transfer windows where they spent huge amounts of money and did not end up with the right players. The smart move now is to be disciplined, to be patient, and to only do the deals that actually make sense for the team. The question you have been waiting for. So here is what I want to know from you. Which signing would you rather see happen first? Would you rather Chelsea secure Marcos Senesi on a free transfer and sort out the defensive issues with a smart, low-cost piece of business? Or would you rather they take the gamble on Darwin Nunez and see if he can finally fulfill the potential that had everyone so excited when he first arrived in England? Both options have merit. Both have risks. And both would tell us something very different about the direction Chelsea are heading in. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us which one you think is more important and why. Tell us if you think there are better options out there. Tell us if you think neither of them should come to Chelsea. This is what the community is here for. Good debate, honest opinions, and love for this football club, even when it does our heads in. Before we wrap up, let us just take a step back. There is something quite beautiful about the timing of all this transfer activity. We are in the middle of a season where the title race is being contested, where Chelsea are still fighting to be relevant at the top of the table, and yet the club is already planning for the summer, already thinking about what needs to change, already making contact with players and agents. That kind of forward planning is actually what separates clubs that improve over time from clubs that just react to what is happening in front of them. If Chelsea are doing their homework on Senesi and Nunez now, it means that when the summer window actually opens, they are not starting from scratch. They are already deep into conversations. They already know what these players want. They already know if the deals are possible. That is smart. That is professional. And that is the kind of behind-the-scenes work that fans do not always see, but that makes a huge difference to the quality of signings a club makes. The outro. Let me bring this home with a simple thought. Chelsea are a club that has been through a lot of change in recent years. There has been upheaval in the squad, changes in management, big spending that did not always produce the results everyone hoped for, and moments where it felt like the club was not quite sure who it wanted to be. But these two transfer targets, one a steady, experienced defender available for free, and one a physical, hungry striker returning from exile, tell a story about a club that is trying to get back to basics. Stop overcomplicating things. Get good players in the right positions. Build a team that knows how to defend and knows how to score. Marco Senesi could be the kind of signing that quietly becomes one of the best pieces of business Chelsea have done in years. A free transfer centre-back who plays regularly, keeps the defence organised, and does not cause any drama. Those players are worth their weight in gold. Darwin Nunez could be the kind of signing that either works out brilliantly or becomes another story about what might have been. But at 26, with something to prove, and at a price that reflects his current situation rather than his Liverpool hype, the risk might well be worth taking. Either way, the summer is going to be very interesting. And if you are a Chelsea fan, even after everything, even after all the disappointments and the confusing decisions, there is still that feeling in your stomach when you see these kinds of stories. That feeling that says, maybe this is the summer we finally get it right. Stay with us at Lucy Chelsea Analysis for all the updates as this story develops. We will keep you informed, we will keep it honest, and we will never stop talking about this football club, because that is what we do here.